Viewpoint, the new podcast series powered by American Muslim Today, a non-profit national media platform. I'm your host, Rifat Malik, and today we are joined by Dr. Elaydi, a Yale-educated orthopedic surgeon based here in Texas. Dr. Ali had previously been allowed on humanitarian missions to Gaza, but found that he is now a victim of the Israeli government's attempt to stop Palestinian Americans from bearing witness to or offering aid to the millions of Palestinians who have been under bombardment for over 10 months now. Dr. Ali, you and other doctors were actually in Jordan on a planned humanitarian mission. This was back in June. You had approval from the UN and the World Health Organization and were literally about to enter Gaza when you received this message from the Israeli agency Kogat, which I think essentially controls travel and access to and from the occupied territories, saying you alone would be barred from entering. What reasons were you given and what kind of impact did that have on you?
So the exact reason was formally rejected due to Palestinian roots. At the time, I couldn't really understand what was going on. I said, what does that mean? Is there anything that I can do? I'm an American citizen. I don't understand why I can't enter to provide humanitarian aid because I am Palestinian. And I didn't understand why I couldn't enter the land that I was born in. So I was born in Gaza and I'm an American citizen. And now I can't even return to the land that I was born to because I was born there. And so it was one of the hardest things for me to process, specifically because, I've always had a tie to this land, and kind of my whole reason that I went to Gaza, that I went into medicine, was so I can give back to Gaza.
Do you feel, as you say, as an American citizen, you're also a Yale-educated orthopedic surgeon, do you feel that the U.S. government should have intervened or should be intervening in this matter, which obviously illustrates clear bias against you because of your Palestinian roots?
Absolutely. So we have, the United States and Israel has a visa waiver program so that Israelis can travel to the United States freely and that Americans can travel to Israel freely. So I don't understand why I, as an American citizen, don't qualify for this waiver. From what I understand and how I feel, this is just another tactic Israel is using in their ethnic cleansing of getting us out of Palestine, in their genocide of not allowing us back into the land that we were born to. They've used many tactics. They've made this land uninhabitable. They want us to leave. They don't want us there. And they're doing everything in their power so that we can't ever return.
Now, this whole story actually only came to light because you had posted a message in social media. I'm not sure which account, but that basically went viral. So tell us what you'd said in that message.
So I posted it a few days after I was rejected. I wrote, formally rejected due to Palestinian roots. Palestinians can't leave Gaza to save their lives, and Palestinians can't enter Gaza to help save lives. To be clear, I'm not allowed back into my birthplace because I was born there. And basically, after it got some social media attention, which I'm glad it did, people started understanding and seeing how Palestinians have felt their entire lives. The majority of us are refugees, either in neighboring countries or in America. I didn't become a citizen of the United States until I was 18. And so for the longest time, I'm just a stateless refugee. And so this is the reality for Palestinians. We feel stateless. We feel like we don't belong. And even in our own land, our own country, we're not being allowed in.
So, and again, this whole targeting of you as a Palestinian or targeting of Palestinian American doctors hit the national news when you penned an opinion piece for CNN, which was published, I believe, in August. And they also reported it in their news coverage. So tell us, how did that article come about?
So I was actually approached through social media about this story and asked if I wanted to write something about it. And I definitely felt the need to get the story out there and explain how unfair and how targeted I felt. And the reality is I think it's what Israel is trying and has been trying to do, is to limit Palestinians and to make us feel like we aren't worthy, we're incapable. We've never been given resources while we were in Gaza, and we can't bring resources in. They've created an open air prison, and they're trying to keep it that way. They don't want us to accomplish anything. They don't want us to be able to provide anything, to do anything for this world. And I think it's just a tactic that Israel's really trying to push. Something that I heard in the news is what has Gaza provided for this world? The reality is is we are being so limited from resources, from education. I mean, the children haven't went to school since the start of the war. They want to keep us unaccomplished. They want to keep us uneducated so that we can fit the picture of how they refer to us as animals and barbaric.
And I know there was interest from other media as well. So did any of the other sort of media organizations reach out to you, and did that pan out as well?
So I actually was reached out by more than a few media organizations, a few big names. I was interviewed. I think they just got pushed back from ever publishing it. And despite me spending hours on the phone doing interviews and providing statements, it was actually never fully published. And one of the things that I was told is the publisher didn't want to put it out there.
And I think that's been an issue for a lot of people who are obviously deeply upset about what's going on out there, that the media is not covering the issue properly. Tell us about your first visit, because you did actually go to Gaza in April before, your second attempt. What was your experience like in April? What did you see? How were you able to put your skills to use there?
I mean, it was some of the worst destruction that I've ever seen or could have imagined in my entire life. It literally looked like scenes from a video game. Where I remember driving through Gaza and entire neighborhoods were fully destroyed. When I got to the hospital, it was housing 35,000 refugees at a 200-bed capacity hospital. The system was so overrun and so overburdened, it's nearly impossible to really take care of everything. I mean, the majority of the patients that I was treating and seeing in the hospital were children. I was told when going to Gaza to prepare as if I was operating in a desert. So we brought everything that we thought we would need with us, from anesthesia medications, from hardware, from masks, gloves, because we had no idea what to expect and what was available. I mean, I even had my family members asking me to bring in insulin and seizure medications for their children because they couldn't get any medications in. They've limited the amount of imports and aid that's able to come in, where not only are the Palestinian people dying from the bombs and the warfare, but we're dying from disease, we're dying from starvation, and they're killing us from every avenue.
How far does fears about your own safety come into this, when you bear in mind that over 500 health workers have been killed since October the 7th, which is, by any standards, I believe, one of the deadliest war zones that there is right now. And there have even been evidence of reports of medical workers and doctors being executed point blank. Does that impact your desire to go back there?
So the World Central Kitchen attack happened the day that I was entering Gaza. Before I left, I fully said my goodbyes to my family and loved ones, knowing that there was a possibility that I couldn't return. But being born in Gaza and being given the opportunity to do something, and the opportunity that the people of Gaza did not have, I felt like it was my obligation to go back. My life is worth no more than their lives. Yeah, I was afraid that I wouldn't make it back, but it's my duty and my obligation to serve these people, my people.
Have you been given any indication in the intervening weeks or months that you might be able to go back? We know, obviously, as we're just discussing, it is still a very deadly situation. The bombings are continuing. Over 40,000 people, conservatively, have been killed, mainly women and children. I know you went through an organization called Fajr Scientific. Is there any indication that this ban on you as a Palestinian American will be lifted?
I don't believe it will be lifted anytime soon. And I know that they have even made it more difficult for people of other nationalities to get in. There's a group of people that I went to Gaza with who was supposed to enter Gaza a few days ago that still hasn't been granted access, and they haven't been given reasons. And there's other individuals, not Palestinian and of other descent, who weren't ever formally rejected. However, their entry date kept getting pushed back to the point where they just couldn't sit and wait around and had to go back to their work. And so they've made it more difficult to get in. And the organizations, knowing this, knowing how difficult it is to deal with Israel and their impossible restrictions, aren't really even accepting Palestinians to in the missions going in, because they are getting so much pushback, and it is making it difficult to get anybody in.
As you said, that obviously earlier you were born in Gaza, and you were a refugee there, and I think you left when you at the age of 5, but you still have family there. And how much has the horror of the last 10 months impacted you as a person and as a physician?
Hearing firsthand accounts from my family, as well as witnessing these firsthand accounts, is some of the most difficult things to process, knowing that I can't do anything. My family is very proud and attached to this land. And for the majority of my life, a lot of them have said they would never leave Gaza. This is their land, and it is their duty to stay on this land. And now seeing the hopelessness that they have, them having to have moved out of their homes that they've built their whole lives to now collecting money to run away from their home so that their children may survive. I wish that I can contribute. The first mission trip that I went on, I realized that they really helped me more than I helped them. I felt like I was doing something. But when Israel didn't allow me back, effectively, Israel took away my scalpel, but I'm not going to allow them to take away my voice. I realized that one of the main things that I can do for them is to use my voice to advocate for these people, to speak on what I witnessed in Gaza and what my family is going through.
Just a final question to you. Obviously, the situation in Israel and in Gaza is very tense. We know that there are huge protests going on. I think it is the 5th day of protests in Israel. Israelis are deeply, deeply angry with their own government, with the government of Netanyahu. Do you think that the American government, that the international organizations and governments could come together and do something? And at what point is it, just unbearable? At what point is it too much that something needs to be done?
I think we've far surpassed it being unbearable, and I do think that this does fall on the United States. Us being one of the main suppliers of arms to Israel, the United States government should be held accountable for what Israel is doing, for providing them the arms to do what they're doing to the Gaza, to committing the genocide. We're seeing countless children murdered with U.S. weapons, and nothing is being done. Yeah, I do think that the U.S. politicians should be held accountable for partaking in this genocide. To me, the silence is just as bad as committing the action.
Dr. Ali, thank you so much. Thank you for bearing witness to what you saw there and for your courage in going out on these humanitarian missions. And thank you so much for joining us today.